All right, here we go on the Monday. Yes, we are live, folks. We're going to be, well, we're kind of starting now. All right, here we go on the Monday. All right, audio sounds very good there. Now let me check, folks. What a scam. This is great. Finally being exposed. They just had this ridiculous press conference. We're not live on the radio yet. Total bullshit. I am so glad. And I'll explain. I get it. I feel the same way like many of you. If there's a way that we could, that sounds good. Imagine that. Oh, we have a windmill and then that's our energy and blah, blah, blah. But that's not what this is. This is a scam. And you saw it. And we will explain it. And we're going to talk about it. But what an absolute scam this is. And they're being exposed. And there he is. Sheldon Whitehouse. We need this. This is taking money out of my wife's pocket. Who in their right mind is supporting that? Rhode Islanders want this to have so my wife can be a consultant on the project. That is insanity. Rhode Islanders want this so his wife can make millions. So his family, how much have they made? 7 million? Total insanity is what these people are. Ridiculous. Total scam. It is. There's everybody. Yes, there's Debbie and Brenda. Folks, we're going to be starting in just a couple moments. Again, complete, absolute, total bullshit scam. And I do understand. Like, I'm like you. Hey, is there a way it's really windy and put up these wind turbines and it generates? I initially thought, yeah, that would be great. And then you realize it's far too expensive. You're not saving money. I remember interviewing Governor Kachiri, and he talked about, wow, this could be fantastic to have these wind farms off the coast. But the problem is now, and you saw all these union members and labor leaders, is they overtook it. And Justin Katz, who's going to join me, we'll talk about it a little bit. That's exactly right, Brenda. Total greed. See, what they did was, so this company, hey, we have this idea. Now, but the state of Rhode Island, and especially McKee, oh, good. Gian says audio is good. Goes to them and says, okay, if you want to do this, you have to have all union workers. You're going to have all, that's why Crowley's there, Sabatoni's there. So the owners of the company say, well, that's going to jack the cost up. They say, who cares? So that's why you just heard Pat Crowley saying this is going to be 1,000 jobs out of work. Well, the way the scam works is that the state kicks them money, and then the government, they get government grants, kicks them money. So suddenly it's far more expensive. But the whole reason for it was just to add these union jobs. See, it has nothing to do with, the wind or anything like that. If this is viable, let them enter the marketplace like everybody else. But maybe now they understand how workers felt when Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline. And McKee, this won't stand. And Rhode Islanders, this Chuck, huge mistake. It's killing. No, Catherine, our electricity's gone up. That's exactly right. No, we're not saving money. They initially said, this will power all of Block Island. It's not. Folks, this is all you keep hearing them talk about. White House. My wife, this is going to affect her job. How many people right now are concerned about Sheldon Whitehouse's wife with a no-show job? Basically, she was given $300,000 a year as a total kickback. They grabbed $7 million off this thing. McKee, Rhode Islanders are against Trump. And then you had that Pat Crowley taking shots at Trump. This is glorious. This is absolutely glorious. I will play some of the sound of it. I was going to go and cover this press briefing, but my only fear was I was afraid I'd be laughing too loud. And then it would be inappropriate. Total goon squad. this will not stand. And what do they use? They use this as a time to then take shots at President Trump. How do you think that's going to go over? Sheldon, people in Rhode Island want my wife to get this money.
This feels personal, and it does. Some of us have been working since the early days of Deepwater Wind, when Grover Fugate and Jen McCann were first figuring out how you...
You know, and I want to also mention that with Governor Kachiri, it was never going to be designed to just be a, handout to the unions. That's all it is. So, folks, like many of you, hey, if there was a way that you could harness this, and I like the idea of the whole thing, much like I'm not against people that have giant solar panels. I think that's fantastic. If it works for certain people, a friend of mine knows someone that lives in South Kingstown. He's got 2 acres of property. He has these giant solar panels on his land, and I don't think he doesn't have to pay an electric bill. I think that is great. Well, not really envious, but I think it's great. And the same thing but that's not what this is. This is a scam that they came up with, where they're lining their pockets. That's all it is. Wow. And Pat Crowley. The people of Rhode Island say F you to Trump. What a jerk. Yeah, that's going to go over well. That's the right way to handle this whole thing. Wow. All right, we're going to start in just one moment. No, we without question, low energy costs, it is the key to business. Exactly. I think that's great. If people can do panels, I think that's great. Yes. Thank you, Debbie. Yes. Yes. White House. People of Rhode Island want my wife to make money off this. What people of Rhode Island? All right, we're going to start. And then we're going to be joined by Justin Katz. Well, folks, good afternoon on this final Monday in August. And I say that with no joy in any way. Excuse me. Yes, good afternoon. We're going to do politics this week also. If you watched Road Patrol last night, we were right there. There was a shooting in Providence. We'll talk about that. But this offshore wind scam, it's unraveling. And the Rhode Island leaders don't know what to do, because this to them has been a bottomless pit of money. And they just keep gouging us. And you have to pay for it, and I have to pay for it. And it's insanity. But folks, this portion of our program, and there's the guy that's really benefited from the whole thing. The people of Rhode Island want my wife to continue. His wife, $300,000 year, no-show consultant job. So it's basically, that's Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. We're live right now on YouTube. We're live on X. We're live on Facebook. And we're live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. What an absolute scam. I'm glad to see the offshore wind scam finally being exposed. And then you realize that all it was a grab by the public sector unions. And then in turn, they kicked the money to the elected officials in the form of campaign contributions. Folks, they're basically, it's a money laundering operation that has now been exposed. This portion of the program brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Stop it and see them. They're open 7 days a week, full-scale nursery, everything you need to make your home a showstopper. Look for them on Facebook. Right now, they have fresh corn. They have fresh peaches, delicious vegetables. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Now, we obviously have an awful lot on the website, depetro.com. And remember, if you want to see some of the videos that we do later this afternoon. I will have up. We were last night was a pretty good Road Patrol Live with the shooting in Providence, and they were right there. And then if you want, there were other people reading off DePietro.com during the whole situation with Kylie. And of course, not giving any credit, but it's all brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They also have a new twist coming to the market at Coesit. I believe they're going to turn that into a coffee shop. But at the Coesit Inn, when they say there's something on the menu for everyone, there's something on the menu for everyone, whether it be their pork chop or the pierogi or the surf and turf or the tequila lime chicken or the chowder and clam cake. 7 days a week they're open, lunch, dinner, always a great meal, and they're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Now, as we're standing by, we are going to start off with politics this week with our friend Justin Katz, managing editor of AnchorRising.com. But I did receive an email from Fred saying, Juan, who is that propane company that I mentioned? There it is, Diane, right on the screen. Well, Fred's the one sent the email. It's Propane Plus, and always online at propaneplus.com. Remember, residential, commercial, heating, cooling, everything you need. It's Propane Plus. Now, in Rhode Island, remember, you can call them for service for all your heating and cooling. It's Propane Plus. In Rhode Island, call them 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Remember, heating, cooling, they're the best. Residential or commercial, you can depend on Propane Plus. Well, folks, it's Monday, and that means let's bring him on. He is the managing editor of AnchorRising.com, and it is Justin Katz. Good afternoon, Justin.
Good afternoon, John. Great to be with you.
Great, Justin. Justin, let's start off. I could go on and on, but I want to hear your thoughts on they are absolutely unraveling, whether it's Seth Magaziner or whether it is Sheldon Whitehouse. Of course, Governor McKee. You have Crowley up there. How about Rachel Miller, the city council president, who also just happens to be involved with the scam as well? But this is these offshore windmills. And you've written about it, you have studied it and reported on it and followed it. This is a union scam that I am so glad that President Trump is pulling the plug on. Let's talk about it. Your thoughts on this?
Well, absolutely. And what I really appreciate about seeing this happen with this is you understand how the Democrats and the unions, they think once they get their hands on something. It reminds me of the line in Princess Bride where the villain says, "You were trying to kidnap what I've rightfully stolen." They're so upset because they thought they had it. You're not allowed to take things away from them. And if President Trump does succeed in taking it away, the union members will probably start questioning. I thought you had this wrapped up for us. And, to broaden it, they should take the same lesson to pensions, to everything else. When you raise something up to this height level of political battle, sometimes you're going to lose, and it has to be taken away. And I'm glad Donald Trump is doing this. I wish more Republicans had in the past had that kind of spine, and I hope more do in the future.
And I want to just set the stage so people understand. Justin, I was saying it was Governor Kachiri that first started the discussions. I remember I'd interview him. I used to have him on for Ask the Governor, and he talked about offshore Rhode Island and what it could be, almost like the Saudi Arabia wind world. But then between him leaving office and let alone McKee coming in and Raimondo, they suddenly flipped this to these companies saying, if you want to do business in Rhode Island, then you have to hire all these union workers. And the companies, I know some that they would say, that's not feasible. We can't meet these costs. And then the state officials would say, don't worry about it. So they start throwing them state money. They start grabbing federal money. They don't care, because as they're giving it to the unions, the union members are then kicking it back in campaign contributions. It became like a giant money laundering situation, Justin. And now it's all unraveling. And this thing, by the way, is nowhere near 80% done. I've heard it's not even 50% done. You know why? Because it's an endless money pit. And you and I would talk about this Crowley and McKee. It's a scheme that they developed of we're going to grab all this money. We're going to say it's a new form of energy. It's going to be kickbacks to the politicians. It's going to line the pockets of the union leaders. That's why they would be laughing on the boat ride out to look at these these huge windmills that are doing nothing but ruining our offshore fishing and killing wildlife.
Yeah, and I think people don't understand when they had this problem in New York too, where they're insisting on the union labor, the wages, the same rates, even if you're non-union, and then they just create jobs. I mean, there are whale migrations through these areas. You've got to have several boats. In some of these boats, I think in our area, I know in New York area, you have to pay people 24 hours a day to stand on deck and do nothing but sit there with binoculars and look for whales and things like that, going through the migration. Then they've got to dig trenches in the ground. It's all these boats and machinery. It's like a crazy dream. And I remember when Cartier did it, it actually caused some disruption on the conservative side in Rhode Island with the Ocean State Policy Research Institute and others who had no option but to oppose it, because it was just so crazy to insist on these heightened costs. And I remember at the time, I think one of Cartier's main people, maybe his chief of staff, Jeff Grabowski, I think, became a principal leader of offshore wind. Then I don't know the details, but then they sold it to the Europeans and probably made a killing. And then it becomes this big money grab where everybody just wants in. And that cycled through, as you said, through political donations, I'm sure through jobs, through contracting agreements with lawyers and so on and so forth. It's billions of dollars just being forced into our insider groups at the expense of federal taxpayers and also local energy ratepayers. And these politicians have no right to be claiming that this is a problem for our energy needs in Rhode Island, because they block any energy that doesn't suit their ideological needs. It is, like you say, it's just a grab for these insiders.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you look at like Rachel Miller. She's the head of the Providence City Council. She opposes ICE, all this anti-Semitic stuff, but she's also involved in the scam. Now, I've been getting emails about this for a while, that on each shift, there's at least one no-show job on each shift. Because again, it's way offshore. And as you say, someone is paid to sit on deck at 24 hours. They're supposed to look through binoculars to look for whales. At 3 o'clock in the morning, who would know whether or not if there's that person doing that? But you can tell, Justin, how much this hits in, because what people don't understand is it's all then laundered back. You keep adding union jobs, and then they keep kicking money back to Seth Magaziner, Sheldon Whitehouse, Dan McKee, and it just becomes, it's a huge money grab. It's not actually about providing energy through wind. It's about creating a new revenue source is really what this is. Like, as they have run out of things of how to grab money off the roads, they're constantly scheming and trying to come up with new ways. And that's really what this was. It was a scheme that the state invested in, then they grabbed federal money, and now this foreign company is blank out of luck because they're the ones that grabbed it, and suddenly there's no federal money or state money there.
Right, and it's actually much broader than energy and roads. I mean, I've called it the government plantation. I've analyzed it in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Basically, what the business model becomes is your entire industry is government services. And the goal is to get as many people, as many ways to provide government services, whether that's this sort of indirect government services for energy or welfare or healthcare, any of that stuff. And then you bring in immigrants, or you bring in the union workers to be your constituents. They're your clients, and you make somebody else pay for it, ratepayers, taxpayers, or the federal government. And the problem with this is eventually those people say, I'm getting no value for this. I know you're getting a lot of money providing these services, but we're going to take over a wing of the federal government and make sure that you can't take our money this way. That's inevitably going to happen. And it's going to be the bigger crash the longer we rely on this. We need to get off this gravy train, because it's not going to be sustainable for Rhode Island at all.
Now, folks, Justin, also, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has singled out certain areas in Rhode Island, one of them, saying the time is up. You have to stop these sanctuary policies. And you have Governor McKee who basically ignored the warning, ignored the letter. And Justin, what I also find disingenuous with our local media on this story is you and I have literally discussed this for years. It's actually very simple. And we talked about in Portsmouth how ridiculous that is, that the Portsmouth police have an illegal and then they stand at the front steps of the police station and they release them. And then the ICE agents have to run and tackle the illegal. In that case, they surround them. And it's a total waste of resources. ICE said, we have to send 5 agents instead of just sending 1 person. And what I find disingenuous about our local media is they allow Governor McKee to say, gee, I don't know why, they're saying that we have sanctuary policies. He knows exactly what it is. That policy is because in 2014, then Governor Chafee, that's what he did. He said, oh, no, you need a court-authorized warrant to be able to do it. That's what limits ICE. And as a result of that, McKee could reverse that in 1 hour. He could put an executive order saying we're going to go back the way it was, which is the way that Florida follows it, Texas, all these other states are following a certain policy. But what do you make of the fact McKee actually ignores Pam Bondi and the DOJ?
Well, what strikes me with McKee and also with Norona's statements about them being bullies is they're just so dismissive and so cocky. I mean, you get the full McKee attitude. Like, I don't see anything to even respond to. It's not like, I'm not sure what they're saying. We're going to communicate with them and work with them and try to address their concerns. None of that. That's what you would do if you were a politician who actually cared about your state, cared about the predicament, especially Rhode Island, where we are so dependent on the federal government for everything, revenue and money and goodwill. If he cared about Rhode Island, he would actually be working with the federal government. Instead, he's playing to his progressive base, which is very much, with Pat Crowley at the charge, very much the same as the union base. That's his constituency. That's who he's trying to serve. And if he has to bury Rhode Island, if he has to lose millions and millions of dollars in aid from the federal government, whatever, he doesn't care. That's not who's keeping him in office.
You're right. And at no time, I mean, that just doesn't make sense to anyone. I also just noticed at no point does anyone locally seem to admit, okay, that doesn't make sense, that the police have to release them at the top of the steps and then ICE has to stand at the sidewalk. What if all local police did that? That could be reversed instantly. What I find disingenuous is the media doesn't bring up, they allow Governor McKee to say, yeah, I don't know, it's a mystery and we're not even going to respond and they're bullies. No one calls them out that it's a ridiculous policy. And as I have said, when I have been with police and we have someone that another city wants, I was with Cranston and East Providence wanted the person that we had scooped up. So we wait and then East Providence comes and they, take them and they switch the handcuffs and they put them in the East Providence car. That's the way it's done. Can you imagine if Cranston would say to East Providence or Warwick or Providence or anywhere, okay, we're going to release them at the front steps of the police station. And then you have to stand outside on the sidewalk. And then when he comes out, then you have to try to grab them. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, but I also, Justin, I don't hear anyone coming forth showing leadership. I don't hear anyone saying, maybe we ought to relook at our policy. Maybe this shouldn't be the way. With this wind energy scam, you don't hear anyone saying, hey, maybe there should be a different alternative. What do you make of the fact? I think that there is a leadership void right now where someone could be speaking out and I think could garner some attention.
Well, I think so. And both as you're indicating, both as politicians and in the news media. I mean, on both of these issues with wind, there have been people saying loud and clear, and there's left to right alliances opposing wind because it's killing animals and destroying the view. The news media could easily go to these politicians and say, well, can you see their point? Do you feel like you should have listened to the people who are objecting a little bit more over the past 10 years? Same thing with the immigration. They don't go to the governor and say, isn't there anything you could kind of give on this to show you're cooperative? Instead, it's all yay, rah, rah. And I think there is a leadership void, but I worry about it in Rhode Island because the deck is stacked so much against anybody else coming in, and anybody who gains some traction becomes the supervillain of the state. Their big unions go after them at the state and local level. The news media goes after them. You're always the villain, and I think that has an effect. And so they think they think they run the show here, and they really do. And I think that's why we get no commentary from the news media, even give an indication. Maybe you should correct your steps so we don't lose these millions of dollars in funds for roads, and we don't lose industry. But they don't, because they're all on board, and they're all, frankly, a lot of them are unionized. Channel 10, the Providence Journal, Channel 6. So they're all part of that family as well. And so we don't really get any opposition commentary on any of these things.
Folks, again, our segment is Politics This Week. With us is Justin Katz, managing editor, anchorrising.com. Justin, 2nd District Congressman Seth Magaziner has now listed his Cranston house for sale after never moving in. He's staying in the 1st District. This was in 2022, a campaign promise. He said, I'm going to live in the 1st District. We bought a Cranston home. Then it became, well, we're doing some remodeling. We also learned his wife has a job in Cambridge. I don't remember exactly what she does. But what do you make of the fact that he's basically now saying, I won't be able to vote for myself because I'm not going to move into the district?
Well, it's not just a campaign promise. I mean, a lot of politicians make campaign promises. I'll get you this policy, I'll do this, and they run into problems where they can't do it. Often it's convenient because they don't want to, but there's at least a good justification. This was literally, I'm going to move. He could have done it at any time. He didn't. It was always, in my opinion, it was always a lie, and I think everybody knew it. He was just sitting there until he found a way to get into Senate, or more likely, as we're probably going to see, Rhode Island loses its congressional seat and he has to run for that. And it shows his fundamental dishonesty, and that's a big problem.
Folks, it's time for Katz's Corner. This is a story that Justin Katz has found that he wanted to comment on. What do you have for us this week, Justin?
Well, speaking of people speaking out, I noticed in South County and Hopkinton Town Council, Jasmine Roy, who's also with the Moms for Liberty group, took some time out of a meeting to talk about a local nonprofit called the Village Common Rhode Island. They do good work, but she pointed out they're still in on this DEI thing, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so she took a few minutes to point that out and make it a little uncomfortable for them. And I wanted to applaud her for that, because I think we need a lot more of that. I wonder if you read, and we did on Anchor Rising, read through these policies, the DEI policies, and what they actually would mean for these organizations. And they mean discrimination against the wrong kind of people. And that needs to be made uncomfortable so they stop doing it. So I want to applaud Jasmine Roy for that, and suggest everybody go take a look on anchorrising.com.
Folks, again, he is Justin Katz, managing editor, anchorrising.com, our segment Politics This Week. Justin, excellent job as always, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, John. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, folks, there it is. Justin Katz right here on the John DePietro Show. Now, I will touch on what happened last night for those of you that saw it. There was one piece of the puzzle, but we, see how it all fits in. But this portion of our program, now this is the final week of summer for most, just final week of August, but maybe you're looking for some opportunities for childcare. Kids Club on the Pike. Kids Club on the Pike is perfect. They do before and after school care. They also do preschool, half and full day program for preschool children, 3 and 5. They provide transportation before and after care for school-age children, ages 5 through 12. Now, this is also a perfect spot if you want to have a gathering for children. Now, they're just wrapping up. They had their very successful summer camp. So Kids Club on the Pike, folks, it's centrally located right off of 295, right on Plainfield Pike, right on that Cranston-Johnston line. There is their Facebook page, Kids Club on the Pike. Birthday parties, before and after school program, summer camp preschool program. You're going to love it. They do a fantastic job. It's Kids Club on the Pike. Now, last night, we were out on, road patrol was very active last night. And it's interesting. We ended up at Hasbro Children's Hospital because a youth went in there essentially with a gunshot wound. And then as we were leaving, we encountered, I think it was the vehicle that they had driven the youth to. And they were at the Burger King, which is right on Eddy Street, right down from the hospital. So now what's interesting is, and this is important to me, the rest of the media, all they're reporting is that it was a shots fired on Public Street, which is in South Providence, but they don't have the other coverage. They don't have that 3 were detained. They don't have that the car that was apparently used was then towed. So that's why those of you that watched it last night, that is live police action. We do have it up on YouTube. It will be up on depetro.com later today. But again, for those that if you prefer just, censored, here's a minute 20 on something or just a quick headline, it's completely fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you like the live element of police action or police activity, then Road Patrol Live is for you. Now we do it subscriber only for various reasons. A lot of times security reasons makes more sense, but you can certainly be part of it. And we're going to be very active. This is a very active week. You can then watch it. I mean, afterwards, once we're done, we post it, and a lot of people watch it that way. But there is something about the live element. But this week, in leading in, it's this is traditionally, and I believe it's going to be a busy week. I also want to point out that there is a problem with you, and I'm going to talk about the wind scam in just a moment, but there's a problem with youth crime. I think it's New Jersey. They're thinking of starting to publish mugshots of 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds. And in our area, it's not just our area. In Washington, D.C., it's a major problem with youth crime. It's an old standard that unless they're 18, they don't publish the mugshot. But what I understand in New Jersey, they have found by publishing the mugshot of some of these kids that are 15, 16, and 17, they don't get in trouble anymore because obviously it stands out more, and then the police know who they are, and their family and teacher knows who they are. So, but I don't, once again, I don't hear anyone talking about there's clearly a problem when just 2 weeks ago in Cranston, you had a 16-year-old executed. Now, granted, it was by a 19-year-old, and the third person is still on the run. But last night, if you saw our video, and we have it up on all our platforms, I knew it right. Those kids are young. They're young, but they don't cooperate with the police. They know who fired the shot that hurt their friend. It wasn't fatal, but now there'll be retribution. My point is, I don't hear anyone, as far as an elected official, talking about that there is a problem with youth crime. So there's too many people that write it off as, oh, come on, kids are kids, and, I did stuff, and, this is different. When people say that, I don't know what they mean by that. I didn't steal a car when I was 16. I didn't steal a car when I was 17. I didn't have a handgun when I was 16. I didn't have a handgun when I was 17. So when these people say, oh, come on, they're just kids being kids. A 16-year-old with a handgun is not a good idea. A 17-year-old with a handgun. Listen, none of those ages are good, but they get protected because they're 15, 16, 17. And what a lot of the defenders, the progressives are big on this. What they don't recognize is the 18 and 19-year-olds know that. So they many times have the 16 and 17-year-old in the gang carry out the shooting. So, oh, come on. It never fails. Anytime there's a story about youth, we have oh, come on. I was smoking cigarettes when I was 16. I snuck out of the house. I ditched school. You're likening that to 16 and 17-year-olds involved with shootings. I don't understand the connection there, but it never fails that people always put that. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, free estimate any project. J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730. And remember, if you're a veteran, they have a great package for veterans, or maybe a member of your family is, mom or dad, or maybe your grandparents, or maybe your son, or maybe your grandmother or grandfather. J. Perry Paving. You know what they would love? They'd love to get their driveway paved. J. Perry Paving. Call them today. Free estimate, 401-732-1730 for J. Perry Paving. All right, now the main event. And I get that. I want to be very clear. It's not, I don't want anyone out of work. I don't want that. I don't want anyone to have to lose a job. But this whole, as Justin said, this whole wind energy, this is a scam perpetrated by the elected officials like that, him, and organized labor. And the way it goes is they tell these companies the only way you can do business in Rhode Island, you have to have completely organized labor. In other words, they want in on the scam. And then White House took it to another level with then the wife was grabbing all that money. And that was all part of it. Not only was the wife not even working, the wife, then they came up with even a better scheme. She didn't want to have to go into the office. So then they came up with the scheme of she's just going to be a consultant of the project. Now, if you're a consultant on the project, then that person doesn't even have to report to work. So how much was she getting? $300,000 a year for a no-show job. And that also became, again, when you're getting federal money pumped in, and then you're getting state money pumped in, then money is no object. Oh, here it is. This was the press briefing they had.
Received on Friday
McKay.
to stop the construction on Revolution Wind.
Good.
And it's here today working with a level of union leadership that is reflective of what exactly Mike was just talking about. Labor is New England region and local 271. Ironwork is local 37. Electricians, local 99. Carpenters, Southern New England.
Do you realize, number one, you had to hire all of the unions, and then number two, all the unions kick back campaign donations to McKee, Magaziner, White House, and AMO.
And local 330. Painters, local 195 and District 1. District Council, number 11. I also want to give a shout out to the Building Futures, to CCRI presidents here, talking about the apprenticeship programs that we put in place, and the many advocates here today that are here standing up to a directive that is problematic. Let's cut to the chase.
McKay.
The latest move by the Trump administration is an attack on Rhode Islanders.
No, it's not. It's not an attack on Rhode Islanders. It's putting an end to the scheme. That's all they care about. The only thing they care about is it's less money in their pocket. Insanity. How's your electric bill been this year? Folks, don't you understand? These people, they would notice you have to hire all the unions. You have to hand over your company to the unions. And then McKee, the guy says, listen, that's going to cost me an extra $50 million a year. McKee says, we'll just give you state money and then we'll get federal aid. Like, who cares? Just go along for the ride.
It's an attack on our jobs. It's an attack on our energy. It's an attack on our families.
Attack on our families? Why are you giving our money? If they have a good idea, if you have an offshore wind company and they have a very good idea and they're solid about it, then let them come in. Let them set up shop. They have to follow all the laws. They have to hire workers, train them, and let there be competition for it. But that's not how they set this up. They set it up. See, if they do that and they just have open competition, then the politicians, they don't get any kickbacks. They don't get all the donations. Don't you understand? It's not about, I get the whole thing. Oh, it's a windmill. The wind's powering. It's not about that. It's about all the money that then they kick back to White House and Magaziner and McKee. It begins and ends there.
Families and their ability to pay the bills. And I really want President Trump to understand that. This is about our jobs.
What are you talking about? This should be the lowest form of energy that we can have, and let there be competition for it. Competition drives prices down and again, an improved product. These people don't want to operate that way. That's why, as Justin said, yeah, you have to have someone on deck making whatever it is, $35 an hour, round the clock, people with binoculars looking for whales. Those turned into no-show jobs. This is like The Sopranos. Remember, they'd have certain no-show jobs on job sites? That's what this is.
The men and women are here in the trades have heard me say this more than once. J-O-B-S. Can I be any clearer? J-O-B-S.
He's right about the BS. He's definitely right about the BS. See, he has no answers. They have no answers.
Revolution Wind has already created over 1,000 union jobs. And when we are talking about jobs, we don't just mean construction. Right here in Quant.
See, it became, how can we pull off a scheme that will get 1,000 union jobs? Not just jobs, has to be union jobs, because then they get the dues and then they kick the money back to people like McKee and White House and Magaziner.
Orsted has operations and maintenance center that will be supporting jobs for as long as the turbines are generating power. And let's not forget the ripple effect. Revolution Wind.
The ripple effect is less money impacts them giving him money for his reelection. That's all this is. You know, President Trump, I don't know. I'm not convinced, I should say. I don't know if they even know the level of the scam that McKee and the unions and what they've been pulling off here and everything else. But it's no small feat of just how much of a scam that they have been running here. And what they're upset about is that President Trump has basically upended the apple cart, and now suddenly he's upset. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. 1,000. Why isn't it just 1,000 jobs? See, you know why? Because then he doesn't get a kickback on that. That's all it's about. Folks, in this portion of the program, there he is, him and Matos. This guy should never have been put in charge of the state. Never. Never. He is a puppet. This portion of our program, folks, brought to you by ServPro of Providence. When disaster strikes, fire, smoke damage, water damage, storm recovery, mold, fast, thorough, professional, ServPro of Providence, 401-941-5500, 401-941-5500, ServPro Providence. They're available 24/7. If you have a fire, disaster, call ServPro of Providence today, 401-941-5500. Hey, listen, as I've said, I don't want to see anyone out of work, just like everybody else. But this is a scheme that they came up with, and now they're upset because the scheme has come to a halt. I want to get to the part where White House has the gall. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse actually has the gall to mention that this impacts.
Not honor its word.
Yeah, Magaziner.
Pick winners and losers.
Sheldon.
But when their fossil fuel donors want to use government's boot to stamp down a rival that is exceeding fossil fuel, that is displacing fossil fuel, that is cheaper and better and cleaner than fossil fuel.
Did he say cheaper? Wind energy is the most expensive form of energy you can have. This is not about wind energy, and you should know that. Listen, I like the idea as well. We have like a sailboat sailing along, not using any gas fuel. I like that. That's not what this is. This is just a big scam where people they get the money kicked back to them by the unions. They're in business together. President Trump, they've unearthed and realized what a scheme this is. That's what it's all about.
They go right to government And Trump, with his pockets full of fossil fuel money, is only too happy to oblige.
The nerve.
We will find out, I suspect, what the cost is. When he pulled this stunt in New York, the cost was that the governor had to clear a couple of pipelines. For who? Oh, right, for the fossil fuel industry, of course. And then empire went forward. So we are in, I think, the opening stages of what in my law enforcement days I would have referred to as extortion. And as a student of history, I will certainly refer to as what the founding fathers would have called corruption. This is not on the...
And this is coming from Sheldon Whitehouse. If you want to set up a wind farm, you have to hire 1,000 of these union people who are going to kick money back to us, and you're going to give my wife a no-show job for $300,000.
This is not legitimate. We are taking a real blow as a result of fossil fuel industry corruption dictating to the Trump administration what they should be doing. And what I hope very much from this gathering is that labor around America sees this choice. These projects offshore were done with project labor agreements, with support from labor unions, with labor jobs, well-paying labor jobs, with talented people at work making all this happen.
Do you understand that we have to pay for, instead of, we're not paying for an oil company to hire oil workers, but why do we have to pay these people? It's all part of their scam. It's a total scam.
And the choice between extending fossil fuels' useful life a few years because it gives money to Republicans and supporting this remarkable new technology and the labor force that supports it, they made that choice. And labor around the country, I hope, is bearing witness to what is going on here. So thank you for calling us together. This is important. I just have to have a scientific moment. I'm sorry. My wife is a marine scientist. The amount that fossil fuel is heating the oceans every year.
Do you believe he actually had the nerve to bring up the wife who gets how much? $300,000 a year for a no-show job. $300,000 a year for a no-show job. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by, now, if you're thinking of maybe remodeling your home, Arch Design Builders. They specialize in residential design. You can call them at 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124. Arch Design Builders. Set up that free meeting with Ed and Roxanne at Arch Design Builders. Whether it's a new kitchen, maybe you're thinking of a new bathroom, maybe a new basement, well, not redo your basement, maybe you have an unfinished basement, or a deck, or a special project. Arch Design Builders. High-end, custom-build customer service. Are you thinking of doing some work on your home or on your building? Arch Design Builders. Call and set up that free meeting with Ed and Roxanne. 401-218-9707. 401-218-9707 for Arch Design Builders, or 401-207-4124. They do a fantastic job. You're going to love it. It's Arch Design Builders. Speaking of your outside, always remember Watson Materials. Watson Materials, the largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. You can call Sean, request a quote, 401-885-0600, 401-885-0600, whether it's landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials. Call them and request a quote, 401-885-0600. This is serious. Of course this is serious. But when you have right now, you have someone who he acts in a lawless manner. Governor McGreed. It's all about his reelection. It's all about his reelection. Matos, let me be very clear. These two people should not be in charge. They should not be in charge. and they're about to face the consequences. Rhode Island and Massachusetts, by the way, between Senator Markey and Elizabeth Warren, and Governor Healy, where President Trump, they're cutting funding to Massachusetts because they won't follow, they continue to follow sanctuary policies. Governor McKee, we have no one. That press briefing was just a total attack on the administration. And for them to think there aren't going to be consequences, they're ludicrous and they're playing with fire. Remember the golden rule. The golden rule. Whoever has the gold rules. That Rachel Miller, she's part of the whole scam. Folks, what you have is a progressive Democrat scam. That's all it is. That's all the wind energy was. And here's the leader of it. Ready? From the AFL-CIO. Listen who spoke at the meeting. Oh, let me play this.
Thank you, Tom. That's my time. I'll introduce you guys to Patrick Clowney.
Here we go. Now, keep in mind, President Trump stopping the windmill project.
Thank you, Tony.
Listen to this.
And thank you, everyone who spoke before me. Governors, Senator Reid, Senator Whitehouse, Congressman Amo, Congressman Magaziner, especially my brother, Michael Sabatoni.
Brother.
And Rachel Miller, who's been a longtime friend.
See, that's the whole union, union brother, union sister. This guy, as if listen to the way he then starts attacking President Trump. Now, President Trump, that's it. Enough of this charade. Enough of this windmill scam. This is ludicrous. You people are lining your pockets. And this guy, he's part of the scam. He's part of the scheme. 1,000 union jobs, jacks up the cost, union dues, kickbacks back to the politicians. It's all a kickback scheme.
But most importantly, thank you to all of the tradesmen and women who are here today. There are 1,000 jobs on the line right now. 1,000 good-paying union jobs.
Notice it has to be union jobs. What's he really saying? The dues from those jobs, the kickbacks to the politicians for those jobs, lining their pockets. Again, this is AFL-CIO.
Jobs that are not only going to build this project, but are going to build a clean energy future for Rhode Island. And I don't know what that person in Washington is thinking, but I know one potential headline that I'm going to see in the future. Small man takes on small state, and small state wins. Because...
So the person who's canceling the project, President Trump, who has said enough of this outrageous scam, enough of this money gouge of state money and federal money. Now they decide they're going to call him a small man. Well, if he's a small man, why are you so reliant on the federal money?
What Donald Trump doesn't understand is he did not just take on a Danish company or a project. He took on the entire state of Rhode Island. When you look at the people who are assembled here today, from all walks of life, from every single community, from working class to middle class, to making sure that our environment is safe and secure for the future. This has nothing to do with the art of the deal. This is all about the art of the steal. And he's not just stealing this job from us. He's stealing our present, and he's stealing our future.
Do you believe, the nerve of this crowd? That's not the art of the deal. It's the heart of the steal. The art of the steal. This whole thing is a union scam money grab where they grab all the money. That company they mentioned, yeah, you can do business here. You have to hire and hand over your workforce to this crew because they want to get paid. That's the extortion. And McKee just stands there nodding.
But I have one last thing to say to President Trump. You want to take on Rhode Island? You're going to have to come through the people here. You're going to have to take on the entire labor movement. You're going to have to take on the entire people of Rhode Island. Because we're not going to sit down and take this lightly. We're going to fight you at every step of the way, no matter how long it takes. Because that's what Rhode Islanders do. So let's make sure that we send one complete message to
He is a total communist, total socialist. See, that animosity, they're so upset that their scam has been upset and actually overturned and exposed. My wife is a scientist. The wife, $300,000 a year, no show job. You know what the latest project she did? She came up with, what have you? How to get rid of beach litter. How to get rid of beach litter. Let me guess. Does it have anything to do with picking up trash on the beach? $300K a year, no show job. And what was the project? Picking up beach litter. Total scam. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Now, call Corey today, 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815. Now, they could epoxy your garage or patio, decorative concrete flooring, sport court resurfacing, pickleball, tennis, basketball, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call them today. Free estimate, 401-283-9815. 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They do a fantastic job, and what a difference it makes for your driveway, for your garage. Get your garage epoxied, or they could also resurface a basketball court, tennis court, pickleball court. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating, 401-283-9815. Well, folks, what we are looking at right now and dealing with, oh yeah, that's right, Trump is trembling in his shoes. These people, total clown show. Too bad. I am applauding President Trump. You know what else is? The people that were just up there, especially like that Rachel Miller, who's the head of the Providence City Council. They have no regard for quality of life. None. If there is a car broken into, hey, welcome to the big city. Someone's apartment gets broken into, well, you know, that's just the way it goes. These are progressive socialists, the crew that you just heard. That's how they operate. And as I've told you, progressives, they don't value your quality of life. I was watching some of the Sunday morning talk shows, and of course they talk about crime in DC and how under the National Guard suddenly, you know, no murders, crime is down. And one of the people, I think it was on This Week, and she mentioned she lived in DC, and then her car got stolen, and then her apartment got broken into, and then she moved out of the city. The progressives, the Democrats, they want to convince you crime is not that bad, right? Crime is not that bad. There's no crime. Governor McKee, we don't need the National Guard. There's no crime in Rhode Island. 16-year-old was just executed. You had a hammer attack over the weekend. You had a 17-year-old shot last night. People are afraid to go in downtown Providence. Downtown Providence has not recovered since the riot. Now, granted, that was Mayor Lorza, but, you know, I'll be interested to see with the services for Judge Caprio. They're going to allow the public into the convention center on Thursday. And then the funeral mass is at the cathedral. And I've already had people send me messages of, boy, I love the judge, but I don't go to Providence anymore. Or, you know, my daughter moved out of state and she doesn't allow me to drive to Providence anymore. So notice the big cities. President Trump, they're saying we're going to send the National Guard to Chicago. The people of Chicago saying send them in. But it's the progressives, the people at that Rachel Miller. I can't get over the Providence City Council leader, Rachel Miller. She's the one that said, ICE with the police, that's a never again moment. we want to treat this as a never again moment. They don't talk about the fact that you had a gang member who's wanted in another country, hiding in Providence, pushing out fentanyl. You don't hear anything about that. Instead, Rachel Miller is saying, never again should the Providence police try to assist ICE. Or how about Senator Whitehouse saying they removed a Rhode Island resident? He's not an American citizen. President Trump wants to move to fentanyl-free America. Make America fentanyl-free. You know, you start to wonder if certain people get a piece of the action. You know, Rachel Miller, never again should Providence police assist ICE in removing an illegal MS-13 gang member that was distributing fentanyl throughout the state. You start to wonder, maybe they are getting a kickback. I don't put anything past this crowd. All right, if you are listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everybody else, subscriber only. We'll be riding tonight again on this Monday night for Road Patrol Live. Enjoy this Monday.